This will find you one day before the best chapter of your life begins. Have you ever wondered if the day you're living right now is not ordinary at all? What if this exact moment, this very video, these very words is finding you for a reason? What if you are only one day away from the greatest chapter of your life and you don't even know it yet? Think about that for a moment. Tomorrow could be the day everything changes. The phone call you've been waiting for. The opportunity that rewrites your future. The person who changes your life forever. The breakthrough that finally rewards every tear, every sleepless night, every silent prayer, and every moment you questioned whether your dreams would ever come true. Most people believe life changes gradually. But if you study the stories of extraordinary people, you'll discover something remarkable. Their lives often appeared completely ordinary until one single moment changed everything, one decision, one encounter, one realization, one unexpected opportunity. The chapter before the breakthrough often looks exactly like the chapter before giving up. That's why so many people miss their miracle. They mistake the silence for failure. They mistake delays for rejection. They mistake closed doors for permanent endings. They don't realize that life has a strange way of testing whether you're ready for what you've been asking for. Before your biggest blessing arrives, your faith is often stretched further than ever before. If you've been feeling restless lately, if old relationships are fading, if things no longer excite you the way they once did, if it feels like your life is being rearranged in ways you can't explain, don't rush to label it as bad luck. Sometimes the universe removes what no longer belongs because it refuses to let you carry your old life into your new one. Here's the truth that very few people understand. Your greatest chapter doesn't begin the day something changes around you. It begins the day something changes within you. The outer world is simply catching up with the inner transformation you've been experiencing all along. Every challenge has been shaping your character. Every setback has been strengthening your resilience. Every disappointment has been preparing you to appreciate what is finally on its way. So I want you to listen with an open heart today. Don't dismiss these words as coincidence. Instead, ask yourself one powerful question. What if this message has arrived exactly when I needed it most? What if today is the final page of a chapter filled with struggle, uncertainty, and waiting? What if tomorrow marks the beginning of abundance, love, success, peace, and possibilities you never imagined? Stay with me until the end, because we're going to uncover the signs that your life is about to shift, the mindset that attracts extraordinary opportunities, and why the moments that seem the darkest often come immediately before the dawn. By the time this message is over, you'll never look at your current situation the same way again, because this may not just be another speech. This may be the message that finds you one day before the best chapter of your life begins. The silence before your breakthrough there comes a season in every person's life that feels strangely quiet. It is a season where the phone stops ringing as often, where opportunities seem delayed, where answers refuse to come, and where it appears as though the world has forgotten your existence. It is in this silence that many people lose hope. They begin to believe that nothing is changing, that their dreams have somehow slipped beyond their reach, or that they have been overlooked by life itself. But what if that silence isn't empty? What if it is filled with unseen preparation? What if the absence of visible movement is actually the greatest evidence that something extraordinary is being built behind the scenes? Every magnificent transformation begins in places invisible to the eye. A seed spends weeks buried beneath the soil before anyone sees a single leaf. During that hidden season, no one applauds the seed, no one celebrates it. Yet beneath the darkness it is breaking apart, developing roots and gathering strength for the life it was created to express. If the seed could speak, it might think it was trapped forever. But its burial was never its end, it was its beginning. In much the same way, many people mistake their season of preparation for a season of defeat. Life has a remarkable way of removing distractions before introducing destiny. Sometimes the relationships that once felt permanent begin to fade. Habits that once brought comfort no longer satisfy you. The goals you chased for years suddenly lose their appeal. At first, this feels confusing. You wonder why everything familiar seems to be slipping away. Yet this is often the first sign that your identity is expanding. You are no longer meant to fit inside the life you once desired, because you are becoming capable of something far greater. Growth often feels like loss before it reveals itself as gain. The mind naturally resists change because familiarity feels safe, but transformation always asks you to release what is comfortable before you can embrace what is extraordinary. One of the greatest misunderstandings people have is believing that success begins the moment external circumstances improve. In reality, every lasting breakthrough begins with an internal shift. Before your life changes, your thinking changes. Before new opportunities arrive, your expectations evolve. Before abundance appears in your hands, confidence begins growing in your heart. The outer world is often the final chapter of a story that has already been unfolding within you for weeks, months, or even years. This is why patience is not passive. Patience is active trust. It is choosing to believe in unseen progress when visible evidence has not yet arrived. It is waking up each morning with the quiet confidence that every step, even the difficult ones, is moving you toward a destination that will eventually make sense. Many people quit during the silence because they mistake stillness for stagnation. They assume that because they cannot measure progress, none exists. Yet some of life's greatest movements are invisible. Consider the way dawn arrives. For hours, the night appears unchanged. The darkness seems complete and endless. Then, almost without warning, the horizon begins to glow. Within minutes, the world is flooded with light. But the sunrise did not begin at the moment you first noticed it. It began long before your eyes could perceive it. Your breakthrough often follows the same pattern. Long before the opportunity appears, countless unseen events are aligning. Conversations are taking place that you know nothing about. Doors are being prepared that you have not yet discovered. Circumstances are shifting beyond your awareness. What feels like delay may actually be perfect timing assembling itself. This is also the season when your faith in yourself is tested. Anyone can remain hopeful when everything is working out. Confidence is easy when every plan succeeds. But true inner strength is revealed when you continue believing despite uncertainty. The person you are becoming is far more important than the achievement you seek. If your dreams arrived before your character was ready to sustain them, they might become burdens instead of blessings. That is why life often develops your patience before your prosperity, your wisdom before your influence, and your resilience before your rewards. Preparation is never punishment, it is protection. It ensures that when your opportunity finally arrives, you possess the maturity to receive it, the discipline to maintain it, and the gratitude to appreciate it. Instead of asking, "Why is nothing happening?" begin asking, "What is this season teaching me?" That single question changes everything. Suddenly, delays become classrooms instead of prisons. Challenges become training instead of torment. Every obstacle begins revealing a lesson that strengthens your future rather than weakens your spirit. You realize that every disappointment sharpened your discernment, every failure refined your strategy, and every setback quietly redirected you towards something better suited to your highest potential. Looking backward, what once appeared to be rejection often reveals itself as remarkable protection. The opportunities that never worked out were making space for the ones that truly belonged to you. So if your life feels unusually quiet right now, do not assume the story is ending. Some of the most powerful chapters begin with silence. Resist the temptation to measure your future by your present circumstances. Continue showing up with hope. Continue nurturing your vision. Continue becoming the person capable of living the life you desire. Because one day, what now feels like waiting will suddenly make perfect sense. You will look back at this season and realize it was never empty. It was filled with unseen preparation, quiet transformation, and invisible momentum carrying you toward the very chapter you had been praying for. And when that chapter finally opens, you will understand that the silence was never the absence of progress. It was the sound of your breakthrough getting ready to arrive. One of the greatest mysteries of life is that profound change rarely announces itself with certainty. It doesn't arrive with a loud declaration saying, "Get ready, your best days are about to begin." Instead, it whispers through subtle signs, small shifts that many people overlook because they are too focused on what appears to be going wrong. Yet if you pay close attention, you will notice that every extraordinary chapter is preceded by unmistakable clues. These signs don't always feel exciting at first. In fact, they often feel uncomfortable. They can look like endings instead of beginnings, confusion instead of clarity, or uncertainty instead of progress. But what if these moments are not evidence that your life is falling apart? What if they are proof that it is finally coming together in a way you could never have imagined? One of the first signs is that the life you once loved no longer feels like it fits. Places that used to energize now leave you feeling empty. Conversations that once held your attention begin to feel repetitive. Goals that once consumed your thoughts suddenly lose their emotional pull. At first, this can be unsettling because humans naturally seek familiarity. We often assume something is wrong when we no longer enjoy what used to satisfy us. But this discomfort is often a sign of expansion. You are not losing yourself. You are outgrowing an old version of yourself. Just as a child eventually outgrows clothes that once fit perfectly, your soul eventually outgrows environments, habits, and beliefs that were necessary for one season but are too small for the next. Growth always demands space, and that space is created by releasing what no longer aligns with the person you are becoming. Another powerful sign is that unexpected endings begin to appear. A job changes unexpectedly. A friendship naturally fades. A relationship reaches its conclusion. Plans you've carefully arranged suddenly fall apart. Your first instinct may be to interpret these moments as failures, but consider another possibility. Sometimes life removes what your fear would never allow you to release voluntarily. We often cling to comfort because it feels safe, even when it quietly limits our potential. The closing of one door often creates the only path toward the door that truly belongs to you. Looking back on your own life, you have probably discovered that some of your greatest blessings came from situations that initially felt like disappointments. What seemed like rejection became redirection. What looked like loss became liberation. What felt like an ending quietly prepared the beginning of something far greater. You may also notice an increasing desire for solitude. While others continue chasing constant distractions, you begin craving moments of silence, reflection, and peace. This isn't because you're becoming disconnected from life, it's because your inner world is becoming more important than the noise surrounding you. Great transformations often begin in quiet places where clarity can emerge without interruption. During these moments, new ideas arise, forgotten dreams return, and your intuition becomes stronger than your fear. You begin hearing a quieter voice within yourself, a voice that gently reminds you that your future does not have to resemble your past. This growing inner awareness is often one of the strongest indicators that your next chapter is already taking shape. Another sign is that challenges seem to intensify just before circumstances improve. This can feel deeply frustrating because it appears as though life is moving backward rather than forward. Yet history repeatedly shows that resistance often increases immediately before breakthrough. Imagine an airplane preparing for takeoff. It must generate tremendous force against gravity before it can rise into the sky. Likewise, moments of pressure often reveal that you are building the strength necessary for higher levels of responsibility, success, and fulfillment. Rather than viewing every obstacle as evidence that you are on the wrong path, begin asking whether it might actually be preparing you for a greater destination. Sometimes the greatest lessons arrive disguised as the greatest difficulties. You may also experience an unusual sense that something is about to change, even though you cannot explain why. There is no visible proof, no major announcement, no guaranteed outcome. Yet deep inside, you feel an unshakable expectation. It is as though your heart already knows what your eyes have not yet seen. Many people dismiss this feeling because logic demands evidence before belief. But some of life's most meaningful moments begin as quiet convictions long before they become visible realities. Trusting that inner knowing requires courage because it asks you to believe beyond appearances. It asks you to continue preparing for opportunities that have not yet arrived and to maintain hope even when external circumstances remain unchanged. As your new chapter approaches, you may also become more selective about where your energy goes. You no longer feel compelled to prove yourself to everyone. You stop chasing approval from people who cannot appreciate your value. Instead of forcing relationships, opportunities, or outcomes, you begin choosing peace over pressure. This shift is incredibly powerful because your greatest opportunities rarely emerge from desperation. They flow toward confidence, clarity, and emotional stability. The more you release the need to control every detail, the more room you create for unexpected possibilities to enter your life. Perhaps the most beautiful sign of all is gratitude appearing before the miracle. Instead of postponing your happiness until everything changes, you begin appreciating the journey itself. You recognize the lessons hidden within every season. You understand that every delay has shaped your resilience, every challenge has strengthened your character, and every unanswered question has expanded your faith. Gratitude changes the way you experience the present, allowing you to see abundance where you once saw lack. And when your perspective changes, your actions change. When your actions change, your future begins changing with them. So if you've been noticing these subtle shifts, if your old life no longer feels like home, if unexpected endings are creating new space, if your intuition is becoming stronger, if your challenges are refining your strength rather than destroying your hope, don't be discouraged. These may not be random events. They may be the quiet signs that life is preparing to introduce you to a version of yourself you've never met before. Trust the process, remain open to change, and keep moving forward with confidence. Because sometimes the most confusing season of your life is simply the final page before the most beautiful chapter begins. There is a truth that changes everything once you truly understand it. The life you desire is not waiting for a different world. It is waiting for a different version of you. Most people spend years trying to change their circumstances while overlooking the one thing that creates those circumstances in the first place, their identity. They believe that once they receive more money, they will become confident. Once they find true love, they will feel worthy. Once success arrives, they will finally believe in themselves. But life often works in the opposite direction. The inner transformation comes first, and the outer transformation follows. The person you become determines the life you experience. This is why two people can face the same opportunity and receive completely different results. One sees possibility while the other sees risk. One expects abundance while the other expects disappointment. The difference is not in the opportunity, it is in the identity standing before it. Imagine trying to pour an ocean into a tiny cup. No matter how much water is available, the cup can only hold what its size allows. In many ways, your self-concept works the same way. If deep within you believe you are undeserving of happiness, success, peace, or love, you will unconsciously resist the very blessings you have been asking for. You may push away healthy relationships because they feel unfamiliar. You may hesitate when opportunities appear because fear convinces you that you are not ready. You may even sabotage your own progress without realizing it because your subconscious is trying to keep your outer life consistent with your inner beliefs. This is why changing your identity is far more powerful than chasing temporary results. Expand the container, and you naturally become capable of receiving more. One of the greatest obstacles to transformation is the attachment to an outdated story. Every person carries a narrative about who they are. Perhaps it is the story of someone who has always been unlucky. Perhaps it is the story of someone who has been rejected too many times, disappointed too often, or overlooked for too long. These stories may have begun with real experiences, but they do not have to define your future. The danger lies in repeating yesterday's experiences until they become tomorrow's expectations. When you constantly remind yourself of past failures, you unknowingly train your mind to anticipate more of the same. The first step toward your new chapter is deciding that your history is information, not identity. What happened to you shaped you, but it does not have to limit you. The moment you stop introducing yourself through your wounds, you create space to introduce yourself through your personality. Becoming the version that can receive your miracle also requires releasing the need for external validation. Too many people postpone their dreams because they are waiting for permission from someone else. They want family members to approve, friends to understand, critics to become supporters, or strangers to applaud their vision. But the people around you can only respond to the version of you they have always known. When you begin growing beyond that version, not everyone will understand your transformation. Some may question your decisions. Others may doubt your abilities. A few may even distance themselves because your growth reminds them of the changes they have been avoiding in their own lives. Do not mistake their uncertainty for evidence that you are moving in the wrong direction. Every meaningful transformation requires the courage to continue believing in yourself before the world catches up with your vision. As your identity begins to shift, your habits naturally begin changing as well. You stop making decisions based on fear and begin making them from confidence. You no longer ask, "What if I fail?" Instead, you ask, "Who am I becoming through this experience?" Every action becomes an opportunity to reinforce your new self-image. You speak differently because you think differently. You carry yourself differently because you see yourself differently. You stop waiting for motivation to appear and instead develop consistency, knowing that small daily choices quietly shape extraordinary futures. Every morning becomes a chance to act like the person you are becoming rather than the person you used to be. An important part of this transformation is learning to trust yourself again. Many people lose confidence because they have experienced disappointment, heartbreak, or failure. They begin doubting every instinct and questioning every decision. Yet confidence is not the belief that nothing will ever go wrong. Confidence is the belief that no matter what happens, you possess the strength to respond wisely and keep moving forward. The people who create remarkable lives are not fearless. They simply refuse to let fear make their decisions. They understand that uncertainty is the price of possibility. If you wait until every doubt disappears, you may wait forever. Progress belongs to those who move forward despite not having every answer. As you continue becoming this new version of yourself, you will notice something remarkable. Opportunities begin appearing that once seemed impossible. Conversations unfold differently. Relationships become healthier. Ideas arrive with greater clarity. It may seem as though the world has suddenly changed, but what has truly changed is the way you interact with it. Because your expectations have risen, your attention naturally notices possibilities that fear previously ignored. Because your confidence has grown, you are willing to step through doors you once avoided. The miracle often isn't that life finally starts giving to you. The miracle is that you have finally become ready to receive what has been waiting for you all along. So stop asking whether you deserve the life you dream about and start asking whether you are willing to become the person who can sustain it. Let go of the old identity built from fear, disappointment, and limitation. Release the belief that your past determines your future. Each day, choose thoughts that strengthen you, habits that elevate you, and actions that reflect the life you intend to create. Your greatest chapter will not begin because luck suddenly finds you. It will begin because you have transformed into someone who recognizes opportunity, embraces growth, and welcomes abundance without apology. The miracle you have been waiting for is not simply a destination waiting in the distance. It is the natural result of becoming the person capable of living the extraordinary life that has always been meant for you. There is a fascinating pattern that appears in almost every remarkable life story. Before the greatest chapter begins, something unexpected finds you. It is rarely dramatic in the beginning. It does not always arrive with fireworks or unmistakable certainty. More often it appears as something small, an ordinary conversation, random opportunity, an idea that refuses to leave your mind, an unexpected invitation, a chance meeting, or even a quiet realization that changes the way you see yourself. The world tends to celebrate the breakthrough after it becomes visible, but very few people recognize the seemingly insignificant moment that started it all. The greatest transformations often begin disguised as ordinary moments. That is why so many people miss them. They are waiting for life to shout while destiny is quietly whispering. They expect their future to arrive in spectacular fashion, yet the most life-changing opportunities often enter through the smallest doors. Think about how quickly a single moment can alter the direction of an entire life. One conversation introduces you to someone who opens a door you never imagined. One decision to say yes instead of no leads you to an opportunity that completely changes your future. One book gives you a new perspective. One idea inspires a business, a career, or a mission that impacts thousands of lives. One act of courage breaks years of fear. Looking backward, it all seems obvious, but in the moment, it feels surprisingly ordinary. That is why you must never underestimate small beginnings. Every mighty tree was once an unnoticed seed. Every masterpiece began as a blank page. Every successful journey started with one uncertain step. Greatness rarely announces itself at the beginning because a purpose is to reveal itself gradually through consistent faith and courageous action. One of the most powerful things that finds you before your life changes is clarity. For a long time, you may have felt confused about your direction. You questioned your purpose, doubted your abilities, and wondered whether you were meant for something greater. Then suddenly, almost without warning, everything begins making sense. The lessons from your past connect like pieces of a puzzle. The disappointments you once resented reveal themselves as preparation. The delays that frustrated you now appear as perfect timing. You begin seeing that every experience, whether joyful or painful, has been shaping you for this very moment. Clarity does not necessarily answer every question about the future, but it gives you enough confidence to take the next step. And often, the next step is all you need. Before your greatest chapter begins, life also has a way of placing the right people in your path. These people may arrive as mentors, friends, partners, teachers, or even strangers who speak exactly the words your heart needed to hear. Sometimes they stay in your life for years, and sometimes they appear for only a brief moment, yet their influence changes your direction forever. This is why every encounter deserves your attention. The person standing in front of you today may become part of the story you tell for the rest of your life. Likewise, you may become the unexpected blessing someone else has been praying for. Never assume that ordinary interactions are meaningless. Life often moves through people, opportunities, and moments that seem insignificant until time reveals their true purpose. Another thing that often finds you before everything changes is an opportunity disguised as responsibility. Many people imagine that success arrives as comfort, but it usually arrives as a challenge. You are asked to do something you have never done before. You are invited to step outside your comfort zone. You are presented with a task that feels slightly bigger than your current confidence. At first, your instinct may be to say, "I'm not ready." But readiness is rarely something you feel before you begin. It is something you develop by taking action. Every successful person has experienced moments where they felt unqualified, uncertain, or afraid. The difference is that they chose courage over comfort. They understood that growth lives on the other side of the unfamiliar. Perhaps the greatest thing that finds you before your breakthrough fee is a new perspective. The circumstances around you may remain exactly the same, yet the way you interpret them completely changes. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this preparing me for?" You no longer view setbacks as permanent defeats, but as temporary lessons. You stop seeing obstacles as walls and begin recognizing them as invitations to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. This shift in perspective is incredibly powerful because your life follows the meaning you assign to your experiences. When you choose to believe that every challenge carries hidden value, you transform every difficulty into fuel for your future. As your best chapter approaches, you may also notice an increase in meaningful coincidences. You hear the same message from different people. You repeatedly encounter ideas that inspire you. Certain opportunities appear at exactly the right time. Whether you call these moments intuition, alignment, providence, or simple coincidence, they often encourage you to pay closer attention to the direction your life is taking. They remind you to stay awake to possibility instead of becoming trapped in routine. The people who experience extraordinary lives are often those who remain curious enough to recognize these moments and courageous enough to act on them. There is also a quiet confidence that begins to replace your constant need for certainty. Instead of obsessing over every detail, you begin trusting that not everything needs to be understood before it can be experienced. You stop trying to force every outcome and start allowing life to unfold with greater wisdom than your fears could ever imagine. This is not passive waiting, it is active trust. It is continuing to prepare, to learn, to grow, and to believe while remaining open to opportunities that arrive in unexpected forms. Some of the greatest blessings enter your life through doors you never planned to open. So if life places an unexpected opportunity before you, do not dismiss it because it seems too small. If someone encourages you in a way that awakens something deep inside you, pay attention. If a new idea continues returning to your mind, nurture it. If your heart keeps calling you toward a direction that feels both exciting and uncertain, do not ignore that inner invitation. The next chapter of your life may not begin with a dramatic announcement. It may begin with a simple choice, a decision to trust, to act, to believe, and to embrace the unexpected. One ordinary day can become the day you remember forever, not because it looked extraordinary at the time, but because it quietly introduced the beginning of the greatest chapter of your life. There comes a moment in every transformational journey when you realize that the life you have been searching for has never responded to desperation. It responds to alignment. For so long you may have believed that if you worked harder, worried more, chased longer, or forced every situation to happen according to your timetable, you would eventually arrive at the life you desired. But eventually, exhaustion teaches a lesson that effort alone never could. You discover that constantly chasing people, opportunities, validation, or outcomes often pushes them further away because your actions are being driven by fear rather than confidence. The greatest chapter of your life does not begin the day you become perfect. It begins the day you stop living from the belief that something outside of you is required to make you whole. It begins when you realize that peace is not a reward waiting at the finish line. It is the foundation from which every meaningful success is built. Think about the sun for a moment. It never chases the flowers. Yet every morning the flowers naturally turn toward its light. The ocean does not chase the rivers, yet every river eventually finds its way to the sea. Nature reveals a profound truth. What is firmly established in its own purpose does not have to run after everything else. In the same way, when you become deeply rooted in your own worth, your own vision, and your own inner peace, you stop living with the constant fear of missing out. You stop begging life to notice you because you recognize that your value has never depended on external approval. The energy you once spent trying to convince people to choose you is redirected toward becoming the best version of yourself. Ironically, this is often the moment when the right opportunities, relationships, and experiences begin appearing with greater ease. Many people spend years chasing happiness while overlooking the fact that happiness grows wherever gratitude is planted. They postpone joy until they receive the promotion, find the perfect relationship, move into the ideal home, or achieve financial success. Yet every time one goal is reached, another appears on the horizon, and satisfaction remains just out of reach. The cycle never ends because they have trained themselves to believe that fulfillment always exists somewhere in the future. But your greatest chapter cannot be fully experienced if you are emotionally absent from the present. Gratitude changes this completely. It teaches you to recognize abundance before it becomes obvious. It allows you to appreciate today's progress while still believing in tomorrow's possibilities. A grateful heart is not one that has received everything it wanted. It is one that has learned to see value in every stage of the journey. Stopping the chase also means releasing the illusion that every door is meant to open for you. Sometimes we become so attached to a particular outcome that we ignore all the signs pointing us towards something better. We knock endlessly on doors that remain closed because we assume persistence alone guarantees success. Yet wisdom teaches us the difference between commitment and attachment. Commitment means continuing to grow, learn, and move forward. Attachment means insisting that life unfold in only one specific way. The most remarkable opportunities often appear after we release our grip on outcomes that no longer serve us. What once felt like rejection eventually reveals itself as protection. The path that seemed blocked was often redirecting you toward a destination far greater than the one you originally imagined. As you stop chasing, you begin trusting timing instead of resisting it. This does not mean becoming passive or abandoning your dreams. It means doing your part with excellence while refusing to let anxiety control your heart. You continue preparing even when results have not yet appeared. You continue believing even when circumstances remain uncertain. You continue becoming the person capable of sustaining the life you desire. There is incredible strength in this kind of patience because it is built on confidence rather than fear. You understand that what truly belongs in your life will not require you to betray your values, diminish your worth, or abandon your peace in order to obtain it. One of the clearest signs that your best chapter has begun is that your focus shifts from proving yourself to improving yourself. Instead of comparing your journey with someone else's timeline, you become committed to your own growth. You celebrate the success of others without feeling threatened because you understand that another person's blessings do not reduce the possibilities available to you. Scarcity thinking is replaced by abundance thinking. You recognize that life is not a competition where only a few people can win. Every sunrise reminds us that there is enough light for everyone. Likewise, there is enough opportunity, enough love, enough success, and enough purpose for each person willing to become aligned with their unique path. When you stop chasing, you also become more present. You notice the beauty of ordinary moments that once rushed past unnoticed. You appreciate conversations more deeply. You listen more carefully to your intuition. You find joy in becoming instead of only arriving. This presence has a remarkable effect because opportunities are often hidden inside moments we would otherwise overlook. The idea that changes your career, the friendship that changes your perspective, or the decision that changes your future often appears during an ordinary day when your mind is open rather than consumed by worry. And then, almost unexpectedly, the chapter you've been waiting for begins. Not because the universe suddenly decided to reward you, but because you have become someone capable of recognizing and receiving what has been preparing itself all along. Looking back, you realize that every delay strengthened your patience, every setback deepened your wisdom, every closed door redirected your path, every challenge refined your character. Nothing was wasted. Everything contributed to the person standing here today. So if you find yourself standing at the edge of uncertainty, remember this. You do not need to chase what is truly meant for you. Your responsibility is to grow, to trust, to remain faithful to your vision, and to live each day with courage and gratitude. Let go of fear. Release the need to control every outcome. Continue walking forward with quiet confidence, knowing that your next chapter is not something you have to force into existence. It is something you prepare yourself to receive. And perhaps, when you least expect it, you will wake up one ordinary morning only to realize that the chapter you once prayed for has already begun. The waiting is over, the preparation is complete, and the best season of your life is no longer ahead of you. It is finally here.